Strictly Law Business 2025 Outlook webinar, which is actually themed 2025 and the legal sector, trends, opportunities, and predictions. And in fact, it's the first of its kind, and I am very much sure that we are all enthusiastic and we are eager to gain invaluable insights as to what our expert speakers are here to dish out to us. And I'm very sure our speakers are also very much excited about the lessons and basically strategies and advice which they are going to give to us today. And just to ensure that we are all together, I don't know if one or two or three participants can actually let me know if they can hear me via an emoji or a comment in this section. Thank you very much. In the comment section, thank you very much. All right, so I can see one person who has sent the comments. So thank you very much. I believe you're on the same page. So for proper introduction, my name is Daniel Padonu from Strictly Law Business, and it's a great pleasure to be here on this call. And not that I'm just from Strictly Law Business, I'm also here as someone who has quite a lot of things to learn from our distinguished speakers here on this call. But before we proceed, it's just very much important for me to state quite some housekeeping rules that will guide us throughout the period of this particular webinar, which I'll just state for us. And I think the first and foremost, which is quite important, is that everyone is muted except we are expected to speak. That's the first one. And secondly, while the speakers are dishing out value to us, let's just ensure that if you have any question whatsoever, we keep them in the chat box. And after all speakers are done with their presentation, then we kickstart into question and answer segment of this webinar. And I just also know that if you have questions or you have anything to know about Strictly Law Business XLB, be rest assured, justice will be done towards that at the end of the webinar. So once again, you are welcome to the Strictly Law Business 2025 Outlook webinar, and I will welcome the founder of Strictly Law Business. I think I'll call her the woman herself, Miss Olubusola Ajala, on this call. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you for that beautiful introduction and welcoming us. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope we are fine and doing well. It's a beautiful and sunny Friday at our end here. I hope it's the same as everyone's end, and we're having a great start to the year already. The year has pretty much started, and I think that this year, 2025, is actually a very, very fast year. I mean, when we say Happy New Year, and we're already in the third month already. So expectations are high. There's a whole lot to achieve and a lot of opportunities. And we thought that it would be good for us to have this Outlook webinar for the year, talking about what we should expect in 2025 as law firm within the law firm sector and the legal industry as a whole. And I'm so delighted that we have a panel of experts, speakers, veterans that will do justice to this conversation this afternoon. So once again, I welcome everyone. And without much ado, I'm going to just go ahead to introduce our panelists for today. I will dive straight into the conversation for today because we don't want to waste our time, because we know that, you know, TGIF is very important for everyone. So we'll just go straight into it. Please permit me to introduce not saying that just in the order that I have chosen to, not particularly related to anything. We have with us this afternoon the delectable Mrs. Sylvia Nzeku. Sylvia Nzeku is a veteran in the industry, and when it comes to law firm management, law firm business, she has a lot of insight, a lot of expertise in that regard. So I'm just going to introduce her and welcome her. Welcome, ma'am. I think she's muted. Okay. Next, I'm going to introduce, I call him my bon, and is also someone with a lot of experience and insight in the industry, and a lot of things I believe that we're going to learn from, especially from his own particular area of specialization this afternoon. Please join me as a welcome Mr. Rotimi Ogunyemi.
Thank you, Busola. I appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank
you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Next, I would like to welcome Mr. Amala Umeke. He's the founding partner of Strand and Black, and I'm really going to say I want to give a very special welcome to him because one, he's not in the very. I mean, he has some medical emergencies, but he has still chosen to be here with us today and to even speak on this panel session. That's a lot of sacrifices that some people will not make, and I think that he deserves a special welcome. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Amala Umeke.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next I would like to introduce Mrs. Joy Harrison Abiola. Mrs. Joy Harrison Abiola is also another veteran, especially when it comes to the business of law, law firm management, business development, law firm administration also. She's a founding president of the Association of Alan. Alan is Association of Law Firm Administrators of Nigeria, but now she's going on a higher assignment with the International Bar Association, and I think that she's deserving of a great welcome. Good afternoon, ma'am, and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Great to be here. Looking forward to learning.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. And then we have with us the Chief Financial Officer of one of the top law firms at Jumogobi and Okeke. I think that it's important for this kind of conversation that we can have somebody who is going to give us the numbers, the figures. Let's know how we're doing. Let's know what revenue can be generated and even the strategies to do that in the year. And so we have with us Mr. Gbenga Oluwadare, the Chief Financial Officer of Jumogobi and Okeke. Welcome, Mr. Oluwadare.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So without much ado, I'm going to drive straight into it. And I'm going to start with Mr. Amala Umeke. And I mean, it's going to be a question and answer session. And I also want to implore all our audience, please, if you have any question, you can just put them in the chat box after now. But I believe that all of the conversations we are going to have here today will do justice to any of the questions you might have, and then we may not necessarily have. But if you have any other question, you can please drop it in the chat box. So, Mr. Umeke, please, I would like to ask, based on current economic forecast for Nigeria in 2025, for example, the GDP growth, inflation keeps rising. How do you anticipate that these factors will impact the demand for legal services in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I'm great to be here. Sorry, I may not be able to stay to the end of the program. I did explain that I had some issues that I needed to attend to in 30 minutes. But again, thanks for having me. Now, in terms of the economy, the funny thing is that on paper, if you look at it, they would say that the economy is growing, right? But I'm sure that if I do a poll here, I will get a different confirmation from the audience, right? That perhaps the economy is doing worse for people's take home and taking them home. So I find it a bit amusing that you have the statistics that says, oh, there would be growth in 2025, but at least with my colleagues in my office, they are demanding for salary increase simply because of the fact that they are saying that the economy is doing badly. So maybe what I should do is to take the statistics and show it to them and tell them, you know what, we aren't increasing salary because the economy is actually going to be better this 2025, isn't it? But, in terms of how that actually translates into what we do as lawyers or in terms of the business of the law, I try not to restrict myself to Nigeria, and I think that's the mistake that most persons make in trying to build your law firm strategy, right? You're saying, oh, what does the economy, the Nigerian economy spell for your law firm, right? And then you then craft your strategy around it. Of course, it would be foolhardy for you to ignore the Nigerian economy, but I think we should look at it from also a global perspective. What is the global economy, or what is happening globally that can also impact on Nigeria? And then what opportunities can you see there as a law firm so that you can then align yourself with it? So I would take that from those two angles. And the path of the Nigerian economy, like you said, at least on paper, it said that it's growing. Why is it growing? And then if you look at the effects these past few days, there has been a bit of stability, right? Even though between yesterday and today, it has gone up. Why is that growing? First of all, is the fact that there are certain sectors in the market that are experiencing some activities, some movement, right? Particularly the financial sector. And you look at it from two angles. The banks, which are a major stakeholder within the financial sector, they are doing a recapitalization process, right? So a lot of cash is being injected by way of people doing things like private placement, new investors bringing in money into the system, right, to shore up the reserves of these banks in order to allow them meet their capital requirement by the CBN. Now, obviously, that is going to continue this 2025. If you look at it, in fact, most banks will do deals in Q2. What does that mean for law firms? That means that from a transactions perspective, you should be able to position yourself on the capital markets and M&A angle, right? Because those two angles would have a lot of activities this period. One of the other ones that you also have to look at would be on the, apart from the deals that are happening on the with the banks, would be that, I mean, it's a bit controversial, but if you allow me to do an educated guess, one of the reasons why our economy is doing what it's doing is because of the fact that the government is doing, I don't want to say borrowings, right? But they are doing certain debt capital market transactions that are now bringing in inflow of resources, let me put it that way, within the economy. And that is also translating in some of the stabilities that we're seeing in the FX market. What does that mean, right? That means that as a law firm, you may want to also strengthen your capabilities across the debt capital market perspective. I know some persons would sit and think that maybe I'll start talking about dispute resolution and stuff like that. But, you know, the reality is that everybody positions themselves towards some of these things. So you have to look at what is in the market that people are not actually thinking about, right? And then you position yourself towards that angle. So whether from an international perspective or from a local perspective, one area in terms of the sectors that's really resilient is the fintechs, right? And it's simple. It's for the simple reason that the demography, the Nigerian demography actually supports growth in that system. We have a young demography, so that means that these younger ones are more amenable to using some of these fintech solutions. So the market is there. So that means the growth trajectory is there. So that means as a law firm, you may want to continue strengthening your capabilities and continue strengthening your visibility across these sectors, because that is actually going to be very resilient. I did talk about from a global perspective, right? There are a lot of things happening globally that sometimes I say that, you know, lawyers should be overburdened with work at this moment, right? Maybe not so much in Africa, but if you position yourself from an African perspective, you should be able to tap into what is happening. If you look at the US, right, it is show that is currently going on, right? The issue relating to the FCPA suspension, issues and its implications for compliance, issues relating to tariffs, for instance, which is a big deal that would cascade down supply chains, right? So the question is, as a law firm, what are you doing to position yourself for these opportunities arising from the US, Canada, Asian markets, particularly China and in Europe, especially with what is happening with in Ukraine, for instance, right? So how you position yourself in order to be able to, so it's a no-brainer if you look at it from a compliance practice or risk management practice, right? Law firms abroad are really positioning themselves to be able to manage some of the fallout and the risk arising from what is happening from a global perspective. So I think for me, I don't know, I'll have to leave, stop at this moment, but those are some of the things that one would probably look at this moment. Thanks.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I mean, you said a whole lot, and if I'm to do maybe a short recap, because for me, it's all about the money. Where's the money? Where's the business? So I'm living with fintech. You've talked about fintech, and I know that there's a whole lot going on there, and there's so many untapped opportunities, even though it seems as if the market is, is saturated. But I know that there are lots of untapped opportunities that lawyers, law firms can still latch on to. Thank you so much. And, talking about, the inflation rates, the way the economy is, I think, like you said, we should just leave it at that. So thank you very much for that contribution. I'll run quickly too. So because we would like to allow Mr. Umeke leave on time, I think I would like to take his next question so that before I go to another panelist, so that you would then take the last question afterwards, so that so we can release him on time. So I'll go to the next question. Still, I'm still with you, Mr. Umeke. And the question is, so which sector of the Nigerian economy, for instance, technology, energy, infrastructure, which of this sector do you predict, or any other sector do you predict will experience the most significant growth in 2025? And how will this translate into legal services demand?
Okay, to be honest, I think various sectors would experience growth, right? Last year we saw a frenzy of deals within the energy sector, right? And that's because of some of the M&A deals that happened. Whether that will continue this year, that's still left to be seen. There's going to be a big round for some of the fallow assets, but you never can say what will happen. But to my mind, I think the low-hanging fruit in terms of where I see growth, and that's simply because I recently just came back, and that was a consistent message from foreign investors, or at least advisors to some of these investors, would be within the fintech sector, right? And I'm careful, I'm not saying the tech, because I would think that there might be growth, there might be a bit of slowdown in terms of investments regarding tech and startups. But within the fintech sector, especially for the matured ones who have credibility and who are cross-border payment infrastructure, I think that we're going to experience some level of growth because, like I said, the demography is there, the statistics is there to support the growth, right? You have the numbers in terms of the population, and that population is young. And that means this population would like to use the tech, right? So is that going to be growth across sectors? I think so. Some of the reforms that's been done by the government, especially in Nigeria, supports that prediction. But is there a sector that I think that will be quite resilient in terms of growth? I think it will be the fintech sector. Flutterwave, I understand, is trying to go on the NGX market, so we're going to see a number of that, not just in terms of the startups, but actually PEs investing in some of the matured fintech businesses that we have. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And I think that I want to agree with you, because when we did issue our 2024 year roundup report, one of the things that we had highlighted there was the fact that there were a lot of M&A deals. So I think that it would be, I think I agree with you in that regard that because of the EMEA deals we had last year, or we saw last year, there's a likelihood for us to have increase in that this year. And so that's a sector to look out for. And also I've been seeing the conversations around Flutterwave joining, being listed on the stock exchange. And I think that would be a good one. It would offer, growth also. And like you have said earlier in your previous response, fintech is the sector we should look out for. And I think that we should really look out for that. Thank you so much. I'll go to the next panelist. And I would want to go to Mr. Rotimi Ogunyemi. Now, you are the tech person. You talk about all of these AI, robotics, emerging technologies, and all. And tech and innovation, there's a whole lot of conversation going on around that in that space, especially the artificial intelligence. We saw a lot of them last year, and we're still experiencing the influx of a lot this year. So how do you foresee the adoption of AI and automation tools impacting the operational efficiency and profitability of Nigerian law firms in 2025?
Fantastic question, Bisola. And in answering that question, let me reflect a bit on what had happened, maybe say the last 2-3 years generally. Then I will bring it down to the legal sector. So what had happened globally in the tech sector is that we had seen a movement. It used to be like a song we sing back then, but we had seen a movement from what we used to know as the digital economy to what the world is now embracing as the intelligence economy. Now, the implication of that for lawyers particularly is that at the heart of what lawyers do is knowledge work. And knowledge work is essentially deploying intelligence that is many times our human intelligence, business intelligence, to deliver solutions, and most times strategic or legal solutions to the client. Now, with the intelligence age have come particular tools, and all of us have then become aware of artificial intelligence. Not that it's new, no. I mean, artificial intelligence itself has been with us since the 1950s. But what was new in the last 2 years, 3 years thereabout, was we had a strain of artificial intelligence known as the generative strain, the generative AI. And we now started to see the consumer tools in the likes of ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, and very recently we saw DeepSeek. Now, what that had done is that it had taken this thing that we do as lawyers, knowledge, and these tools have commoditized intelligence. It had broken down that high-level work we do and put it in the hands of practically everybody. So what do I expect to see in 2025? One, I expect to see greater awareness of the capabilities of these tools. This is what I mean. Before now, again, even before generative AI, great tools had been in the hands of blue chip law firms, the big law, as they are so called. And these tools have driven efficiencies for big law for years, but these are enterprise level tools. Now, what had happened in the last 2 years is that these tools have now been democratized and they have come to our smartphones like ChatGPT, like Gemini, like Anthropic's Claude. Now, we add that to the digital transformation that we had seen in the last 10, 20 years. And so these are tools, enterprise tools like Microsoft 365, Google's Workspace. Now, what we will see is we'll begin to see these foundational tools, the Microsoft Word and all the suites, with the Google suite being driven by AI. And then lawyers will now begin to see the real value in efficiencies. Let me give a very simple example. So ChatGPT released a model, well, not a model, they released an add-on to an existing model. They had the GPT-4, and then they moved on to the reasoning models, which is the 0.1 and 0.3 models. Now, what the reasoning models do is that they go beyond the regurgitating and generating text like we became so accustomed to with the ChatGPTs. The reasoning models now do what lawyers do, think. So behind the scene, the reasoning model generates 10 responses. Now do a synthesis, think through those responses, and now display on your screen the most optimized and the most valuable response. That's reasoning. That's 0301 model. Then in the last couple of weeks, and I'm using just OpenAI as the example, released what an add-on called Deep Research. Now, you would only see these tools if you are using the paid version, and I highly encourage that you use the paid version for privacy reasons and other reasons. Now, you look at Deep Research as an example. That's like having a PhD, and I'm not exaggerating. That's like having a PhD level colleague sitting right on your desk as a lawyer and is giving you insight into whatever it is you're doing. Now, what will that do? It's going to position lawyers to be able to take on more value added services, and lawyers will be able to deliver more for less. So you have, say for the price of $20 a month, a PhD level thinker on your desk. It goes without saying, you are going to deliver more, typically would have delivered whatever area of practice you play in. And what that does is it positions you for competitiveness. Now the solo practitioner has the tools that the big street law firms used to have and can play in whatever space, all other things being equal. So I want to summarize now to say, I expect to see greater awareness, and I expect to see lawyers beginning to deploy tools that we really didn't think much of in the past, and start using those tools for high value work. Let me land with a real life example. So we have always worried about the duty of confidentiality, for instance, using these tools. Now, I do not recommend that anyone use a tool, say from China, which is DeepSeek, for instance, to... Can I go on? Okay. I mean, I was saying, I do not recommend that anyone use a tool from China, for instance, to do client work. In this case, DeepSeek. But the great thing is DeepSeek is open source. And DeepSeek is such that because it's open source, there's a variant of it that you can download to your system. So you are not using the cloud in China. In the US, you are using this advanced level of reasoning on your system. And that way you are able to deliver work without worrying about privacy or confidentiality issues. That's the level to which these tools have gone. And these are still early days. So we are going to see awareness, and we are going to see experimentation, and we are going to see efficiencies around whatever level of practice, solo, mid-size, or big law. Let me stop there. Thank you very much.
So much. Wow, that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot. That's a whole lot. That's a whole lot. Thank you so, so much. And I particularly love the fact that you said that we should subscribe to the paid version of any AI tool we are using. And I think that that should also be like an investment for us as lawyers, that we are investing in our practice, we are investing in our law firm, and not just looking for the free things, because of course with the free things we know the consequences that would come with it. So thank you so much. I hope we are all taking notes. We will try to do a summary of this webinar afterwards, but I hope that we are taking notes, and any point that jumps at you, especially for your practice, you are able to quickly spotlight it and pen it down. Thank you so much, Mr. Ogiemi. Quickly, I'll go to Mr. Oluwadare before I come back to Mr. Omeike. Now, Mr. Oluwadare, I know you are the numbers guy. You are the numbers guy, right? It's for us at SLB, it's all about, where is the money? Where is the money? Where can we get the money? In whose hands is the money, so that we can go grab it? Or where are the clients with the money, right? So I want to direct this question to you. And the question is, what strategies can law firm implement in 2025 to optimize operational costs and improve profit margin? Because it seems like there's a whole lot that goes into operations, especially when it comes to overheads, a whole lot. And so what can we do? What strategies can we do to optimize operational costs, such that at the end of the day, we have a very good profit margin? The bottom line is not suffering.
Thank you very much. In 2025 and beyond, like the last speaker said, we, as a law firm, we need to leverage on the tools that, like AI, discharge, in order for us to generate revenue. And implementation of this legal technology will help the law firms. At initial stage, the cost may be high, but the reward is also high. And at the end of the day, it will help the organization, the law firm especially, is now available across. It's not limited to the big legal firms. So it's affordable if you can purchase if you can purchase these tools in order for us to work. It can help in research, e-discovery, litigation management, and also to optimize working place and allocate resources. For us to reduce costs, average costs, if you since COVID, Nigeria, especially in my law firm and some other law firm, we are doing hybrid work, where we work for some days at home. It's also going to reduce the overhead costs, the electricity. Some middle firms can decide to reduce their office space because they can work at home. And this model will help the law firm to reduce costs. And you can also outsource some non-core functions, such as the secretariat work, IT. For instance, you don't need to employ, especially the medium law firm, you don't need to employ a full-time IT manager to manage your infrastructure. All you need to do is to outsource it, so that you'll be able to control costs in that line. Reduce operational expenses. If you want to reduce operational expenses, the way to go is to also to leverage on technology by having to purchase the software that you don't need to be a paperless office, cloud-based software. Wherever you need the resources or research, just go into your search engine and pull out some, just put in some important information, and your legal work is ready. Energy efficiency. In terms of energy efficiency, you can also reduce costs. For instance, where we have the high power cost, the diesel cost, now we have solar. We have solar panel, which you can be managed to drive your work, and it will also reduce the cost of energy. Like the building we are Jumogobe and Okeke, Sterling Bank embraced this by infused solar panel on the building. It's also helped maybe for 5 hours to generate to power the building. Those are the things that we can do as an individual law firm, whether you are big or medium or solo practice. You can leverage on this so that it will help to reduce the cost. Now, while reducing the cost, you also have to focus on how to generate revenue, because the revenue is what will drive the business. Without revenue, the business law is an art, is also a business. So you have to work on how to generate, to enhance your profitability. You have to have a revenue model. For instance, some model is hourly billing, some is flat rate, some is contingency fee, and some is hybrid. It's both flat fee and hourly rate. Specifically, if you are in the business of law, you have to look at the best that suit the case. If it is a case that you have assessed that it may not be a prolonging a case, you can adopt a flat fee, and you also come to realize that there should be ingenuity in the billing. You have to be creative about it to let your clients have confidence in you. You can attach success rate with whatever job you want to do. If you look at the job, in order for you, when you are asked for small fee and you are asking for more bonus, it shows that you are so sure that you are going to do well in that case. That particular strategy will help generate more fee, to generate more income. And also for you to generate more revenue, you have to leverage on data analytical for decision making. You don't, for you, when you know pricing in legal is one of the key for you to drive your business. Before you do any price, before you do any quotation, look at the financial analysis. Look at the what are the area that you know that your expertise relies on, that people will have to come, the client has to come because of the reputation you got in that line of business. So you have to look at it. When you look at your profit and loss, the management account, segment those areas. If it is oil and gas, banking and finance, IP, technology, you have to look at it. Which of these areas give my firm more money? Is it real estate? You segment it. When you work on that, it will also help you. It shows that the clients believe in you, that you are in this particular area. You are going to achieve success, and the success rate is high. Then you build more in that sector. You also, for you to expand your revenue, you have to look at the high margin practice area. you focus on high margin practice area, focus on the growth, increase the autonomy. For instance, it's not every cases that should go to court. You can exploit the alternative dispute resolution that make both parties happy, both the defendant and the complainant or the plaintiff. So you have to look at it that it's not all cases go to court. You can do it. You use alternative dispute resolution, which you can also get more money, more revenue. And you also look at how are you going to strengthen the base of your revenue in terms of now digital marketing. You know, it's against the profession. It's against the profession to advertise, but you can make sure that your firm is out there doing one thing or the other, so that it will be on the eyes of the people that this is what you do. It's one of the things that can help firm to reach out to the target clients.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gbenga. I think that I know you have so much to say, but we are pressed for time. So I think I'll pause it for now. There's 2 more questions for you, but I'll pause it for now so that we can go to the next panelist, because we have to manage time effectively. Thank you, Mr. Gbenga. So I'm going to go back to Mr. Umezieke, and this is going to be his last, his final question for this webinar. And so that we can release him quickly. So, Mr. Umezieke, my question is, how do you expect, and I know you've talked about, looking into the international space, seeing what is happening and where we can actually tap into. So my question for you is, how do you expect international investment trends in Nigeria to evolve in 2025, and what opportunities will this create for law firms? Do we have Mr. Umezieke here? Okay, I think we'll just go to the next question. And my next question will be to Mrs. Nzekwe. And this is about strategic planning and growth. What opportunities, ma'am, what opportunities exist for law firms to form strategic partnerships or alliances in 2025 to expand their service offerings and market reach? Because last year we saw quite a number of law firms who went into partnership and who merged. We had some law firms who merged last year. Some mid-sized firms merging with smaller firms. Some firms also doing lateral hiring. So, what opportunities exist for law firms to form strategic partnerships or alliances in 2025 in order to expand their service offerings and market reach?
Okay. Thank you very much, Bisola, for having me. Sorry I didn't say thanks for having me on board when you introduced me earlier. There was a problem with the system, but I'm glad to be here. Interesting question, and I think my question is tied to Amala's introduction, which is an interesting perspective. Basically, the whole area of alliances, strategic alliances, and partnership is hinged on the kinds of opportunities that are out there. I want to take it from 2 main angles. First of all, the fact that the clients are the ones who dictate the pace. They determine exactly what those opportunities will be and how the law firms will respond at the end of the day. And then secondly, the whole thing that is happening in the geopolitical space. I think it's very important what Amala had mentioned. And I also tend to agree that you shouldn't limit yourself to just the Nigerian or the local perspective. It's so important to track things on the international level because it's a very small world, as they say, but everything is all related. So if you take it from what he had said earlier, and I listened intently to the kinds of opportunities he mentioned, even from a domestic perspective, you're looking at fintech, you're looking at capital markets, you're looking at all those things that bring out a lot of investment in terms of resources and also in terms of time. So it would make sense for law firms to look for ways of getting a bit of that pie and pitching their tents in those areas. But how would they do that? Those are significant earnings in terms of capacity that they're going to put in there. You need to have the right kinds of talent that would push out those increasingly multidimensional legal transactions, and they need to be well trained to do that. Of course, with that in mind, it means that you have to look within and see that you don't really have the skill, and you need to leverage on economies of scale. So what that means is the opportunity to actually play in those big fields would cause those kinds of alliances to come about. The other thing I think, which is very, very important, is looking at what is going on in the African space. We've seen so many law firms, not just those that are merging here, but those who have gone into alliances within the African space. And that's interesting because it means they've spotted opportunities there. Some have even merged, like Templars with a Ghanaian firm. But many of the others, like Alukwano Ibode and others, would have alliances that they leverage on. And that tells you that they've pitched their tents in the African space. I think yet again, looking at the global perspective, it's important to flow with what's going on there, because people are seeing that Africa is a big emerging market. And if you're already in the continent, it makes sense for you to want to play in those markets. So obviously clients are the ones who are determining where where the money is and where those kinds of support should come in. The other thing that I think is very, very important for one to look at is the opportunity to share your resources. Rotimi spoke a lot about technology, and I know that technology is a major opportunity that is going to determine how people are going to be efficient in terms of their deliverables. So yes, people may find that if you want to get into technology at the highest level because you want to create efficiencies in your law firm, it may cost you quite a bit. And those are the reasons why people are looking at, we want to be efficient, we want to be able to play big, we want to be able to capture enough clients and expand our market. It might make sense for you to look at how you're going to collaborate, either through a merger of sorts or through a strategic alliance or through a collaboration, just so that you can take advantage of that. The other thing I want to talk about, and which is an interesting development, specifically in Nigeria, is the whole issue of the Japa syndrome. We've seen so many people have left the country. There's been a brain drain, but I don't even want to look at the disadvantage of that happening. I think it's very interesting to play on the trends and to actually see how you can take advantage of those trends. So yes, with people leaving, what have you become? You've had a lot of people having dual licensing to actually practice law in 2 jurisdictions or 3 or more for that matter. How are you as a law firm in Nigeria going to take advantage of that? So it means that you're going to see, because it's a major and interesting opportunity. So people have left. Some people have lost like 4 or 5 staff from different law firms. So you find out that the alumni of that law firm is actually forming in another country. So this is an opportunity for you to create collaborations in terms of transactions. So you're going to find that people are going to be looking at how they're going to put out those kinds of synergy opportunities, just so that they can ride on the backs of people who have that dual licensing to practice. The final thing I'm going to say, because I know you're pressed for time, is the whole area of the volatility of the foreign exchange rates. And so you're finding that even if we're saying that the capital market, you're going to have fintech playing and all, many people have come to realize that at the end of the day, we really do not want to put all our eggs in one basket to generate only Naira. We want to have the opportunity of generating foreign exchange. So what are you seeing? There's going to be a huge leaning on people wanting to export legal services. And it doesn't matter where that is going to happen. It could happen in Europe, it could happen in Africa, but you're going to find that people would want to hold on to foreign exchange as a means of ensuring that they're not, at the mercy of the Naira, or even if they earn Naira, you're not going to worry about how that exchange rate is going to affect you. I'll stop here for now and wait till the next question. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, ma'am. You said a whole lot. And just to go to latch on to what you said, I would take it up with Mrs. Joy Abiola Harrison. And please, ma'am, try to spotlight you. So, Harrison?
Can you see me?
Not yet, ma'am.
Okay. But you can hear me?
Yes,
I can
we
see
can
you
hear
clearly.
Okay. So my question, when I'm trying to spotlight you, my question is just off the back of what Mrs. Nzekwe just said now about, synergy opportunities. So I have this, would I say, maybe concepts, or this idea in my head, and I think it's not just in my head, but from seeing what has occurred or has been, what is obtainable in other jurisdictions with respect to legal services outsourcing. And now my question, with the increasing challenges of talent, attrition and the rising cost of retaining experienced lawyers, how do you see the adoption of legal services outsourcing as a viable strategy for Nigerian law firms in 2025? Specifically, what areas of legal work do you believe are most suitable for outsourcing, and how can firms ensure quality and confidentiality when utilizing these services?
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Busola. And it's been explosive already. I have my notes filled up with so many excellent points. It's a dialogue, and hopefully it is generative. And so we will leave here with one or two things that are impactful that we can put into practice. That is the idea, really. So yes, legal process outsourcing is not new, and it will continue to be a viable and strategic solution for law firms, especially those with high volume routine work, high volume, low margins, and you are aiming to improve efficiency. You are aiming to reduce costs, like Mr. Oluwadare has said, and the aim is for you to focus on high value work. So more and more routine work, ordinarily you want to outsource. So it is viable. Yes, it will deal with, to some extent, it will deal with talent attrition issues. Yes. So your headcount can reduce if you're outsourcing some of those things. It should reduce cost and provide work for smaller, more specialized outfits. So as far back as 2015, almost 10 years ago, I remember speaking with a global IP law firm partner in the Channel Islands, Jesse specifically, and he told me how they have the strategy of outsourcing major aspects of their IP work, to a law firm in Indonesia. So absolutely, it is a viable option to look at. But yeah, there are a number of things, a number of areas you could outsource, majorly routine work. So things like document review, for example, especially for litigation and regulatory matters. Often it involves a lot of handling of voluminous large data. So outsourcing this process will reduce costs and definitely accelerate the review timeline. So document review, legal research, particularly again for routine and standard legal queries, like the collection of legal precedents, case law, or jurisdiction-specific statutes, that can be outsourced to external teams, freeing up your lawyers to focus on higher level work. Standardized contracting or contract drafting and review, such as non-disclosure agreements, service contracts, or employment contracts, can be efficiently outsourced, to to experts who specialize in these areas. Using these external teams will help, help you focus on more strategic, high-level complex negotiation and drafting. And so these simple contracts, standard clauses will reduce time on routine work. I believe also some compliance, regulatory work, tasks like routine compliance checks, data privacy audits, preparing reports for regulatory authority also sometimes often require extensive document handling. So those routine audits, adherence to regulatory frameworks can be outsourced to specialized firms, in those fields, but you must ensure that they stay up to date with industry regulation. Patent work can be outsourced. Trademark filings, we know about that. They can deal with the repetitive searches, the filing applications. Of course, administrative tasks, like Mr. Oluwadara said, can also be outsourced. HR, facilities management, tasks that has to do with your filing. There are some excellent filing outfits. No, but in outsourcing, 4 or 5 things are very, very important. You must vet any outsourcing outfit that you're using. Firms must carefully vet the outsourcing partners, ensure that they have a track record of quality, reliability, and the ability to meet the firm standard, because your firm has a standard. You cannot lower that standard because you're outsourcing. So you must check their references, their certifications. You must look at their case studies. What have they done? Look at their security, what they have in terms of their data security and confidentiality. You must have a confidentiality agreement in place, stringent one at that, not just loose one. Your NDA must be tight. Data protection agreement must be in place when you are outsourcing to a third party. And then they should have a secure infrastructure. Their technology should be tight. So ensure that the outsourcing partners have secure encrypted platforms and communication channels before you share sensitive materials. Ensure that, abroad, I was dealing with a few people, and ISO compliance is very important if you're outsourcing. And so, very importantly, regular monitoring. You have to monitor and continue to ensure that there's quality control. Implement continuous monitoring and control measures, to track the progress of the outsourced tasks and ensure that the final output meets the firm's quality standard. And you must retain oversight. The fact that you've outsourced does not mean that the output, it's still your full responsibility. So while outsourcing, law firms should ensure that they retain oversight of the legal strategy. You have your strategy in place, that's why you're outsourcing. And the final decision-making to ensure compliance with legal and ethical standards. Lawyers should review all work before it is submitted to clients. It's very, very important. Even when outsourcing routine tasks like document review, a senior lawyer should oversee and verify the final output before it is used for a client matter. Finally, let's talk about, very, very important, consent of the client and transparency. You must inform your clients when tasks are being outsourced, and obtain their consent for the process, ensuring transparency and trust. This can be a part of your firm's service agreement. You may want to include a clause in the client engagement letter outlining when and why outsourcing might occur, assuring the client that confidentiality and quality will be upheld. So those are a few points about outsourcing, and we're going to see quite a lot of it as we go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma'am. But just before you go, I still have another question on the back of this one. And it had never crossed my mind, this last point about transparency. In all my thinking about, legal services outsourcing, it had never crossed my mind that, there's a need for you to make that disclosure to clients. But I think that that's a very valid point. But I still have a bit of, and I know you've talked about, outsourcing routine work. But I am also now thinking, because I've had quite a number of people reach out to me, and then, it's really pretty difficult, getting talent or even getting the experienced talent. And you have quite a number of experienced talents who are now going to set up shop on their own or who are freelancing. What do you think about, law firms bringing in some of these freelance lawyers who are experienced, not for routine work now, but for maybe complex legal work, because they have that experience? Maybe they've worked in big law before and now they're setting up shop on their own, but they have a bit of free time and availability to take on some of this tasks for the law firm, so that, the law firms, the burden of, oh, we are overwhelmed, there's no, we don't have enough hands to do this work. And that's because also you're also concerned about cost. So what do you think about, bringing in experienced lawyers, freelance lawyers, to work on maybe a project per time, and then you pay them based on that, and they go not routine work now, but complex legal work?
I certainly see. I mean, I don't have all the answers, and the questions keep. I mean, I have questions, and the questions keep evolving, because it's a fast-paced world, and talent is a major issue. That definitely would be a very good stopgap, not just a stopgap. There increasingly, I mean, we need to try and keep our talents. Increasingly, people are leaving, and there are reasons why they are leaving. We need to understand those reasons, but absolutely bringing, not as laterals, but I have this project coming, let's work together on it. It definitely is a solution that we want to look at. And I know that there are a few law firms that have brought back old staff that have retired, and say, no, you're not retiring yet. You still have a lot to give back. Let's keep working on this basis. So basically, the understanding is this alignment, is the synergy. We cannot keep having talent, having competencies just trickling down. As much as we can harness it, we should, tap into those ideas of harnessing it. So I think it's a fantastic idea, but you have to have your agreements very clear so that there are no gray areas.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. I just wanted to, I mean, it's a concept I have in my head, and maybe I'm just thinking.
I think it's fantastic.
Thank you, ma'am. So I'll go over to Mr. Ogunyemi again, and I would ask that what specific legal tech solutions, maybe practice management software, e-discovery tools, what specific one do you believe will gain significant traction in the Nigerian market, and how will they affect revenue models?
All right.
May I request that you respond within 3 minutes so that we can run. Thank you, sir.
Great. And in responding to that question, I would say the obvious, then I will pivot to what's not so obvious in terms of how it affects revenue models. Now, to be clear, we already know, practice management tools, workflow automation tools. The specific ones, we know the brand names, we know Law Pavilion, and we know that Law Pavilion is laying AI on top of its initial offerings, which is great, right? Now, so there's going to be that, the enterprise and brand names, but there's also going to be the configurations, which I mentioned early on, where lawyers will begin to see that some of these tools on their smartphones can do what the brand names are doing. Now, it's not going to happen immediately, but it's going to happen over time. And why? Yeah, because we need, like we've heard so much of on this call, we need to see efficiencies in terms of practice management, in terms of e-discovery, in terms of document review, in terms of contract lifecycle management, right? Now, so that said, I want to pivot to something critical. When we say that we want to leave the routine work so that we can focus on high value work, and I'm coming here because the second half of your question says, how does this affect revenue model? So if we outsource or we give to technology, much of this routine work? What are these high value work that will bring in enhanced revenue? Now, because we are talking technology, I would stay in technology, but this is it pretty much. So because technology is not just it's not meant to just drive efficiencies in the legal work we do. There's the understanding that technology has infused all sectors, all industries, right? So every sector, every industry, whether it's energy, whether it's bank, whether it's transportation, they are engaging in digital transformation. They are looking at using AI to also enhance efficiencies. They are looking at so many things. So what does that mean for that lawyer who says, you know what, I would outsource routine and I would allow technology to do the routine? It means that you can focus on high value work. Like what? This is the truth. We're in an intelligence age, right? Yes, I know that in this side of the world that we are laser focused on two things: data protection and privacy, and fintech. And yes, the data supports it. But you know, this the open secret. As companies, as industries begin to undergo digital transformation, they are going to begin to look to lawyers, right, to advise them on the implications of these emerging technologies on their business, on their operations, whether it's AI, whether it's IoTs. And they're going to be looking to lawyers to help them structure these transformations in a way that is compliant with the regulatory and legal environment in which they work. That is work. And so that's one, high value work. Secondly, there's AI is the thing, but AI governance is the bigger thing. In terms of AI can do so much, but what should we let it do? What are the guardrails? How do we put policies? How do we ensure that the ethical frameworks are in place? This is work for the lawyer, right? There's digital rights, there's technology ethics, there's red tech, there's intellectual property in tech, there's cybersecurity law. I mean, it's not just fintech and data protection. There are at least 12 domains in this space. So I mean, I'm wrapping here to say, yes, we use the tools to free us up to do the high value work, which brings the income. I'll pause there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So I'll go over now to Mrs. Izekwe to talk about the key performance indicators. Now, Ma, what key performance indicators should law firms track in 2025 to measure success and adapt their strategy?
Okay. Thank you, Busola. I think that is, having gone through the conversations that we've had this afternoon, very insightful. I think it's important to actually realize that at the end of the day, talking about efficiency and talking about productivity, we must be able to track those things. But I'm going to say something to set the tone for, the details I would provide. I think it's very, very important for law firms to actually take on board more seriously this whole issue of having performance as a law firm tracked and to have dashboards. What you find is many law firms just consider those as very mundane tasks. Oh, if it's not generating revenue, it's not interesting work. But truth be told, your revenue that you think you're generating, you may not even have an idea of how much revenue you actually are making in the firm in terms of profit if you're not able to track that. So the one that most people would be used to would be, okay, KPIs for staff, performance of staff, but we're looking at KPIs for the performance of the law firm. And so things concerning how you would look at how you've managed your clients and, client and matter development, that is very, very important. And it's determined really by what you want to do as a law firm. There are no hard and fast rules, but I know that law firms would determine what is important for them. But these 4 or 5 areas I'm going to just quickly run through are the ones that I think would be critical for any law firm that is worth its salt. And of course, you can expand it whichever way you want to go and ensure that you have the right personnel who would actually track these things on a regular basis. I also advise that it's done on a monthly basis so that you can keep track of what's going on in the law firm. So starting with client matter development, you want to understand how many clients have you generated in a particular month? I'm going to use a month as the time frame. How many clients did you generate? New clients, because that's the whole idea. Of course, you have clients that would come as new clients from your business development efforts. You would have clients that are existing clients that are bringing in new work, even though they are existing clients. It's important to track those numbers as well. You also would want to know how many cases you've handled, for each of these clients, because you know that there's some law firms that have several cases running. For example, if we say MTN, for example, and you may have maybe litigation for them, and you have several different kinds of litigation cases, it's important to be able to track all that so you know the profitability from MTN in a particular period. And then, of course, you want to know what are the dormant clients. The truth of the matter is many people still keep a lot of clients on their client list. But if you look at it in real terms, maybe 40% of those clients on your list, you're not doing any work with them anymore. So you should have an opportunity of, looking at that and generally taking stock of what is real. Who are we really working with and working for? Just so we know where we're dissipating our energies. And then, of course, you want to understand how many, the clients, the fees you're generating per client. Who are the big ticket clients that you're dealing with? That's important to know. So you know where you're dissipating your energy. The other thing I will talk about is looking at client satisfaction as a KPI. Still tied to the clients, they say the customer is king. So you want to be sure that you're, doing the right thing for your clients. And this has come on board maybe recently in the last maybe 10 or so years, where people are paying attention to those client satisfaction numbers. And how would you do that? You would obviously have to conduct a survey. How has the client found your service? And many people find that, don't assume that you did good work. The clients may have their own perspective as to what that work did for them. So you must have a way of running surveys to have a client satisfaction survey. I normally like to advise, because it's so easy to forget the details of your transaction and how, clients interrelated with you during the course of the transaction if you wait till the end of the year. So it's advisable to try and have those kinds of surveys, maybe after the end of big ticket transactions or major transactions. So it's still fresh in your mind what exactly the clients, felt about your service in those areas. And then, of course, you want to know from those clients, did you have any referrals? How many of the referrals, did you have in terms of those transactions? Then, of course, you have the financial KPIs. So Mr. Oluwadare would, understand this very well, because the dashboard must show the profitability. And this is not just the revenue. You also want to know how much the operating costs of the firm, so that you can extract your profit level. So what kind of revenues did you generate? Are you keeping track of the invoices or the fee notes that your billings for every month? You need to have an idea of what that is and how much was collected. Many people just feel, oh, I've done the work, the money will come. No, the work isn't complete until you, the lawyer, has actually brought in that money back into the firm. So what has been your collection rate as a law firm? And then, of course, what is the amount of receivables outstanding? Because yes, you may have collections, but then you have a lot that may still be outstanding. And during the course of the year, this must be tracked. I also want to tie those outstanding. You want to track it to the point of understanding the aging of the amount of money that is outstanding. Some of them may have been outstanding for over 3-4 years, especially maybe litigation kinds of transactions. You want to know that you can't say that that's part of your profit until you know at the end of the day what that does for you. And then, of course, operating costs. What does that mean? And of course, the marketing KPIs. Marketing is becoming very, very important now. I know that people are still grappling with, business origination and getting clients on board, but we are seeing a lot that is happening in the social media space. So you must be able to track what's your social media marketing like. What has been the traffic to your website? Is there anybody tracking what's going on your other social media platforms? What kinds are you getting business from there? How have you marketed your firm's services, even through email interactions? It's something that must be tracked as well. And then, of course, the individual KPIs, like I said earlier, which is the one that everybody is used to, where you know that you've had your performance appraisal maybe twice a year or 3 times a year or once a year, depending on the law firm. But that is an important KPI, individual KPIs. The thing I want to say about this, I think it's very important not just to limit the KPI to just the lawyers in the law firm, as in the associates and the senior associates, as well as the business support staff. I want to involve the partners as well in the KPIs for themselves. Many times partners don't want to be appraised, but I think it's important, even within the partnership, because we are seeing increasingly a lot of people feeling that, oh, one person is not bringing in the bacon as they should, and it's all, only 2 or 3 people are doing that. You must be able to track the profitability per partner, because that helps you know which partner is functioning and which is not, and just riding on the back of the others. And then, of course, client acquisition. What are the KPIs for that? How many cases were opened? How many new clients did you bring on board? And what kinds of consultation did you have with clients that translated into, from potential clients to real clients? And the final segment I want to track for KPI, which is not normally, people wouldn't normally look at it, but it's very important, it's becoming key, is the whole issue of firm culture. So we're realizing now that you can't assume that your organization or your firm is doing well. You may be doing well transaction-wise, but you may have a lot of employee engagement issues that you're not tracking. And you're having attrition issues as well that you're not tracking. So to have a holistic perspective to how profitable you are, not just in terms of, dollar and naira, but in terms of the staff, these rare talents that you want to keep and retain, you must have a way of ensuring that you can find employee satisfaction surveys as well as attrition surveys. And I'll leave it there for now. Sorry, final thing I want to say, it's important to recognize that some firms may say this is just too much work. Who is going to do all this? Well, that's why it's so critical now to recognize the efforts that is brought to bear by the business support staff within the law firms. They're not lawyers, but they're providing a lot of support information that is required for you to have a profitable law firm. So they must actually be brought into this kind of exercise that would create the profitability levels that you want to see as a law firm. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. That's a whole lot you said, and I love the fact that you said we must track, and I particularly love the fact that you said partners should also begin to consider, tracking their KPIs. What business did you bring in? What are you doing? And also involving the business support people. They should also be involved because it's crucial. Their role is also very crucial. And if they're well involved, I believe that some of them could even bring in businesses. And I'm looking forward to a day where we'll begin to have in Nigeria non-lawyers who can rise to becoming partners in the law firm by virtue of the work they do and the value they bring to the firm, and in terms of business they bring to the firm also. Thank you. So talking about profitability, now I'm going to go over to Mr. Gbenga Oluwadare, and I would like that you would respond within 2 minutes because we are pressed for time. And so I'm going to type 2 questions, to be 2 questions in one. How will the competitive landscape for legal talent impact salary expectations and overhead costs for law firms in 2025? And then secondly, based on your analysis, what average profit margin growth do you anticipate for well-managed law firms in 2025?
Okay, thank you. I will start by saying that nothing good comes cheap. If you want to retain your talent, you have to pay them very well, and you have to meet their expectation. Because as practically what I've seen, talent, human resources, making up to 30 to 45% of total cost in any law firm. In fact, generally in the service industry, human resources, the people, is the major raw material that bring out the money. So you have to, for you to retain those people who are talented enough to be able to do the work with ease and with a lot of knowledge and the skill required to do work swiftly, to do work perfectly, to do work flawlessly, to produce high quality job, you must try as much as possible to invest by training them, is that training them locally in-house, by make sure that they also encourage their interests and make them specialize in area that of their interest. And you know, Nigeria these days, we have a lot of developing countries generally. We have a lot of issues like inflation. Our inflation is about 35%, and exchange rate volatility is too. The frequency of fluctuation, like last week, we had 1,495. By this week, it has gone up to 1,560. So in that particular, the revenue, I mean the income of workers is being depleted by these two factors: the exchange rate, the inflation. So for you to retain a worker, high talented worker, you should be able, workforce, you should be able to pay, and so that you can get your value for money. And I also look at it in, there are other competitive factors that can drive the talent away from you, like the people that has require in-house lawyer who also want to push them out of the law firm. They also, the boutique law firms, they want also high quality people. And some of the lawyers who have already worked in a big organization before, they just, you know, the most constant thing is change. They decided to open their own law firm and start their own solo practice. So that talent has gone. For if you want to retain these people, their strategy for salary expectation by adopting performance-based compensation, offer non-monetary benefits in kind, like maybe you can build a house and give it to them, they pay gradually, and you have to something like the health insurance, and there are some things, maybe their children, send them to school, the firm should pay for their children so that they can feel more comfortable and focus on the job. So if there is other area that is not their routine work, which we have agreed on this particular discussion, that you can outsource them. Those are the things that make talent to be retained. And the talent in the law firm, most basically the service industry, are the key resources that require to make the firm growing, to make the firm expand, so that if you want to retain it in 2025 and to increase your profit margin, you have to focus on the training and retaining of those employees that you have. And I want to answer the second question, which says, based on my analysis, what are the profits?
In 1 minute, please. In 1 minute, please.
In 1 minute, I want to say this in 1 minute. By my analysis and by my experience, I categorize them into 4. We have law firm, the large law firm, that is 100 and above, who has 100 lawyers and above. The profit margin there is between 30% to 40%. The middle law firm, which is between less than 100 to 20, the profit margin is 20 to 30. The boutique law firm, specialized law firm, the profit margin is between 15 to 25. And where we have the small law firm and solo practice is between 10 to 20 profit margin. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Oluwadare. Thank you. I'll run over quickly now to Mrs. Joy Harrison Abiola. And my question, ma'am, is still around client expectation and around client expectation. My question is, what strategies can law firm, I'm going to ask 3 in 1 question so that we can run. What strategies can law firm implement to enhance client retention and build long-term relationships? And with the evolving client expectations, I mean, the expectation of clients keeps, getting, it keeps evolving. And because we now have, a lot of sophisticated clients who understand what they want, they know the solutions they're looking for. What do you foresee? What evolving client expectation do you foresee shaping the legal services market in 2025?
So I'll try and do this very quickly. Is a short range So how about us having a 5-year, 10-year strategic plan? I know that things are disruptive, but 5-year, 10-year, then incrementally like this, you can always be flexible and always. Oh my, can you hear me now? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, it's better now. Yes, it's better now.
I hope Airtel behaves. Okay, so I was talking about my challenge with law firm economics, the short range planning. We have clients that have 50-year plan, 10-year plan. So how about law firms having 5-year, 10-year strategic planning? And with an SLB initiative like this, you can always be flexible and, go back to the drawing board. So clients' expectation, I think it was Mrs. Nzeku that said that clients dictate the pace. So a client, as clients become more sophisticated, lawyers have to match that sophistication. And every one of us know that armchair lawyering is long gone. Those lawyers sometimes are viewed as slow adopters, especially of technology and best practice. But Mr. Rotimi has made that assertion, a lie, because I'm just so amazed at what he has shared. So to survive, clients must go lawyers must go where clients want to go. Many years ago, I will just summarize by this. One of my many managing partner, Folabi Caxton-Martin, said something. He said, excellence is not by your definition. It's not by your definition. Excellence is what client says it is. Of course, within boundaries of integrity. So one of clients' expectation is predictable pricing. Predictable pricing, there's increased emphasis on clear and upfront pricing for services. Clients want very few surprises in the billing process. So they will keep pushing for transparent, predictable, flexible billing methods beyond the hourly rates. Mr. Oludari has told us a lot about that. There is a shift towards value-based billing. So flat fee subscription models, all those hourly architecture, it has to be modified. We have to adopt alternative fee arrangements. There are success fee arrangement, contingency fee arrangement, volume discount, portfolio fee arrangement, lump sum paid for large body of work. So there are many. Clients want clearer communication, clearer and real-time communication. And Mr. Rotimi has told us a lot about that. They want to know how their matters are progressing. So online portals are trending, where they can track the progress of their matters, track their invoices and documents in real time. Those are trending. More and more, clients want their lawyers to be available 24/7. So more law firms are adopting digital tools for real-time client communication. That's very important. So as the world gets integrated, clients expect to have round-the-clock access to legal counsel. So my last job was working within a Bahrain, and that is very important for us. You know, when you're going to sleep, some other jurisdiction is awake. So round-the-clock access to legal counsel, particularly in sectors like technology, finance, e-commerce, where matters arise at any time. Lawyers will want more efficiencies. Clients will continue to expect quicker turnaround times. Rotimi has told us about that quite a lot. With the advent of AI, legal tech and clients will expect firms to continue to integrate AI-driven tools to their work. So routine task, we need to look at that, how AI can, and beautifully, Rotimi has told us more new areas of law that are opening up. So the trends, McKinsey shared, I think 2 years ago, they shared some data, McKinsey and Co, and they said that by 2025, and that's the year, incidentally, we are in, AI-driven tools will handle 50% of legal work. Now, I don't know how to measure that. I'm not measuring it. I'm putting out there the research by McKinsey. In fact, in that year, they had said that 23% of legal tasks are already automated, and they measured and found that it saved some firms up to $8 billion globally. You know, so there will be a lot of also a movement towards ADR and mediation. We've seen that through the years. Clients will expect more cost-effective and quicker solutions rather than prolonged litigation. So we'll see a rise in digital platform offering mediations and arbitration services. I think it was indeed in 2022, the Nigerian Arbitration Institute reported that 40% of the Nigerian businesses or clients would prefer arbitration, you know, and so another expectation of clients as businesses become more global, clients will demand legal issues are becoming increasingly complex. So we'll most of those issues have global rating. Most of these issues, intellectual property, international trade, commerce, law firms would need to show expertise in multi-jurisdictions, and clients will expect seamless, coordinated legal services across regions. And there are a number of data to support that. So closely linked to that is cybersecurity. They want more cybersecurity. Over 80% of clients will prioritize firms with data protection practices and policies. Sustainability, corporate social responsibility continues to be a key global conversation. Clients will increasingly
Okay, I think we lost her. The network. I think we lost her. The network at our hand. I think the network at our hand is bad. So maybe so that's because we are pressed for time, we'll just move on quickly. But I mean, she said a whole lot with respect to what we need to begin to do and how we should be able to manage the expectations from clients in 2025. And because we're having a lot more sophisticated clients, so it's important that we know how to manage their expectations and deliver as expected. Because again, that's the only way we can keep them. It will account for client retention and profitability for us. So I would want to go back to Mrs. Nzeku for my final question before I then move to Mr. Ogunyemi. And the question is, and I know you touched about it in your previous answer, but I just wanted to just maybe elaborate a little more, and maybe if you can do that in 60 minutes, 60 seconds, it will find what expansion strategies should Nigerian law firms consider in 2025 to capitalize on emerging opportunities?
Did you say in 60 seconds, Busola? It's the time, my time has gone. Okay, let's see.
Apologies.
No problem. No problem. Sorry about that. Yes, I had touched on it, and because I was conscious of time, I didn't elaborate. But I think one of the clear things that we're seeing as a strategies for expansion is this whole area of there's mergers. But I think what you're going to see a lot happening, because it takes time for those things to be put in place, and planning is very important. But the ones that are easier to handle are the strategic alliances. And so you would find with the kinds of transactions that we're seeing are coming forth, either because they're tech-based, or they're also going to have a lot of big ticket transactions and involvement with foreign affiliation. It makes sense to collaborate with those kinds of institutions. So you have law firms that are going to be members of legal alliances or networks that are outside the country. Many of them are very big on, those kinds of things. You have the access to those, you have access to training for your staff, because those are things that are given as part of the package. They come in pricey, but I think that people would want to invest in those kinds of opportunities. And then, of course, you would have those who are entering strategic alliances, like I talked about the African space. And so, yes, there are quite a few law firms that are looking at coming together. But one of the other things that one may find interesting is law firms, and especially looking at what Rotimi was saying earlier, this whole area of technology. There are a lot of law firms that are looking to, because clients are driving this, looking at how they're going to collaborate and have an alliance with tech-related companies. So this is not law firm to law firm, but law firm to tech-related companies, because they found that if they can piggyback off those tech companies, then they are sure that their clients who are playing big in the tech space, they can keep them. Because what you find is clients just want a one-stop shop. They really don't want to shop around. If they have someone and a law firm who is able to provide all that, they would rather stay there. So those kinds of things are going to be very, very important to happen as well. And then I know that the question you had asked Mrs. Harrison Abiola, which was a very interesting one, about law firm people who have, how can lawyers actually get involved in those transactions? Maybe people who have had exposure and are coming back into like for big transactions that they want to collaborate with. You're going to have those things happening as well, where people are going to have experienced lawyers coming back to be part of a team of experts who are managing maybe a project that may require specialized skill sets. So those kinds of things will happen, and these are cheaper than if you have to do a merger. But I want to caution again that even in all these different possibilities, it's so important. Let it be tied to your value, let it be tied to your vision, but more importantly, let it be tied to you determining that this is what is right and that everybody within the firm is ready for this assignment. It's not a herd mentality situation where, because you find many law firms are doing it, let's jump on the bandwagon. It is not a bandwagon thing. I think that point needs to be stressed so that people will take their time to do their homework, their due diligence, and determine whether this is what they need. And so the cheaper option is look for how you're going to collaborate on transactions. It could be local, it could be international. And like I said earlier, the JACPA thing is big. Many people are actually seeing that they can draw on the dual licensed lawyers to actually be part of their team when they're putting forward, proposals for major transactions. I think that's where I'll stop for now.
Thank you, ma'am. And I love the fact that where you close the dual licensing thing. And I think that for maybe some young lawyers, not even just for young lawyers, anyone who is interested, I think that's something we should begin to think about. I know that a friend of mine and I, we have talked about it, about, getting qualified in other jurisdictions, because it just expands our opportunity, gives us opportunity to, for more, it gives us access to more opportunities. And so for everyone on this call, if it's something you can do, I think you should begin to think about it and to see how you can get licensed in other jurisdictions, such that they're able to attract more opportunities for yourself or for your law firm. So I'll go on a final note to Mr. Ogunyemi. And this question is very important because I know that sometimes last year, I really can't recall the name or how it happened, but there was some news about a law firm that got hacked. Maybe their email was, there was an interception, within their email to a client, and maybe they lost some, huge amounts of money. Right. So my question to Mr. Ogunyemi is, with the increasing digitalization, what cyber security threats do you anticipate law firms will face in 2025? And what investments should we make to mitigate this risk?
Fantastic question, and I will try and answer it very quickly. So yes, you are correct. This 2025, and like I said earlier on, this is the digital age plus the intelligence age. And one of the downsides of the intelligence age driven by AI is that the same AI that will bring us so much productivity and efficiency will also be a tool in the hands of criminals, right? Criminals know that law firms handle high value information, whether it's the mergers they do, the financial transactions, the IP they manage. And this makes law firms prime targets for hackers, who are seeking to infiltrate systems. So with the advent of AI and with its growth, and I didn't mention this here today, but 2025 is the year of AI agents. So if you think of AI as a brain, right, that can see, that can speak, natural language processing. Now, 2025 is the year when AI, that brain now begins to have hands and legs, not as robotic, but as in digital form. So you can now, before now, your chatbot would only give you information when you put in a query, but now you can ask the chatbot to go do something, give it a goal, give it a target, and it will do it the same way you would ask a member of staff to go do something for you and come back with a response. That is where AI is today, and that's called agentic AI. So what that does in the hands of the criminals is that the phishing emails, the social engineering, all of those scams that we used to see will now become 10x. Why? Because now an email, which is a scam, will become more convincing because the criminals can personalize it using AI tools, right? Ransomware, malware is going to skyrocket, right? There's going to be insider threat, vulnerabilities, and bottom line, the attack surfaces for criminals would expand. That's the bad news. The good news is that there are mitigation strategies. So every law firm, or so we know that we are targets, right? We must begin to deploy firm-wide multi-factor authentication. Now, we are all familiar with two-factor authentication. I mean, we see that on WhatsApp, right? Someone gets hacked, so deploy two-factor. Now, I'm saying for a law firm, think of multi-factor. So that means it's beyond two. And typically, it's 3 layers, right? Your controls is something you know, password, something you have, that's like a token or an authentication app. Then something or someone that you are, right? Biometrics. This is multi-factor. Law firms must, of necessity, begin to think seriously about embedding this in the tools that we use. Encryption. I mean, we all know about encryption of data at rest or in transit. Now, because cybersecurity is technology, but it's also a societal thing. It's a human thing. It's psychology. Law firms must begin to hold awareness sessions for members of staff, lawyers and support staff, training sessions, awareness sessions, do phishing simulation sessions. That is, you actually send those decoy emails and see which staff would click on it. Then you use that as a training to say, hey, that could cost us, reputation, it could cost us disaster, and then also robust backups, because if a ransomware attack happens, that means criminals encrypt all the data of the firm and say you pay heavily a ransom, and usually in cryptocurrency, to recover your data. But if you have backups, which is away from your systems, so that at least means you are not going to pay criminals and you get your data back, then you have I'll say this last, you have a zero trust architecture in your firms, right? And this is whether you are a solo practitioner, mid-size firm, or big law. Zero trust architecture means that you grant access and privileges strictly on a need-to-know basis, right? Partners, associates, paralegals, IT staff, everyone has different level of access, and you put in controls. Network segmentation is another way, where maybe you have Wi-Fi running in your offices, and then you have the one that guests can log into. You segment the ones that guests can log into from the ones that you do your work on, so that even if a hacker comes into the guest login, it cannot get into your system. So, and you know, Mrs. Harrison Abiola was landing on her point when she said, this is a reputation thing. This is a trust thing. If your law firm is attacked, now you're a victim, but then it raises trust issues. Will your clients trust you? It raises data protection issues. It raises so many issues. So I will end by saying, now as lawyers, away from the technicalities, you can actually help your clients build cybersecurity legal frameworks eternally in their firms. And then, yes, they can leverage the technical guys, do everything I said first, but as lawyers, you can come in and help them with the framework, the governance framework. And that is another high value opportunity, you know, for lawyers to leverage on. I know that time is far gone. Don't forget this. The advent of AI, the attack surface has expanded with deep fakes, synthetic. They truly have a human speaking, and it's not your mom's voice. Voices can be close, more aware, and we need to be more sensitized. Thank you very much. Back to you, Busola.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was a whole lot. And what caught my attention the most is the phishing simulations sessions that you talked about. And I think that is one area that law firms should explore, because sometimes you see all of these things, and in a bit, because we are curious, we just jump on it and we are clicking, not knowing that you're clicking away yourself to maybe, you know, some internet fraud or threat. So thank you for that. That's a whole lot. I don't know if we are, I mean, out of time, but I don't know if we have questions. I'm trying to look at the chat box to see if there are questions, but I'm not sure that there is any question. Okay, I think there's just one question here. Should the client's consent be sought when one asks a colleague to hold one's brief at a date one would not be available in court? Okay, I think this is based off the response Mrs. Harrison Abiola gave earlier on, and so I'd like her to respond to it, ma'am. So the question is saying that, for instance, if I'm not going to be in court, but I'm requesting another colleague to hold my brief, do you need to seek the consent of your clients to do that?
Well, thank you. I hope you can hear me. I think
yes, ma'am.
Okay, when I worked with the Varine, always you it's very important that you are transparent, and that you completely are open on whatever it is, that every step that has to do with the client's work. Yes, so the practice was transparency. So the answer is yes, that's the short answer.
Okay, thank you. So the person who asked the question, you already have your answer. I'm not sure we have any further question, but I think that that's the much we'll take for today. It's been a very beautiful and interesting conversation. I just want to ask our panelists maybe for a final word. You know, I mean, we've had several conversations today. Maybe just in 30 seconds, your final notes as we wrap up today's conversation.
If I may go very quickly, because I'm struggling with connection.
ma'am.
So for me, the key to running a law firm, it's a quote from David Meister, and the key lies in a successful management of two key assets: client relationships and the inventory of skills, and that's your people. So I think it was Mrs. Nzeku that said client is king. So if client is king, what I say is that your people are queens. So treat both well. Make it hard for both to leave you. And there was this quote from Vusi Tembakwayo. He says, talent goes where it is rewarded. So if talent finds a home, a good place where they can grow and thrive, they nest. So whose job is it to create that nest? We all. Competition will get fiercer, you know, and so we need to make it hard for people to leave us and be more and more creative in the use of talent. You gave us an excellent idea, which we need to go and contemplate further. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
I think for me,
You are muted, ma'am.
sorry. Okay. I said that for me, the key word from my end would be remain curious and excited about what 2025 has to offer. I think it's also important for people to expand their minds, be creative. The world is moving at a fast pace. Pick up a new language. If you want to play in this space and say you're worth your salt and you want to practice anywhere, make sure you're bilingual or trilingual, multilingual. It will help you a great deal. Invest in your creativity. That's what I would want to add.
Fantastic. Pick up a new language. Duolingo to the rescue. Thank you, ma'am.
So my final word is basically this. You know, we are all navigating the intelligence age together. Adaptability, innovation, and strategic positioning is key, right? These are the things that will define the professional of 2025. So I encourage everyone, right, to stay ahead of the curve by embracing continuous learning, right? Leveraging these emerging tools, experiment within these tools towards the boundaries of, within the boundaries of professional ethics and ethical behavior generally. And let's rethink how we deliver value to our clients. You know, the future of law is really for those who are prepared for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My parting word is the opportunity is endless, and we should try as much as possible to harness it and move forward with the space that we find ourselves. There is a lot of innovation. There is a lot of new things always coming up every day. We should open our mind to learn and unlearn. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our speakers. It's been a very, very beautiful conversation. Thank you for your time, and thank you to our audience. I'm sure that this has been an insightful and interesting conversation for us. We have a better insight. I mean, for me, I would say that I have a better insight for what to look out for, what to do, how to position in 2025. The year seems running so fast, but at the same time, with all of the insights we've gotten today, I think that we can do something with all we've gotten today. And like I usually say, knowledge acquisition is not enough. It's what you do with what you know that, you know, is a game changer. That's what sets you apart. That's what makes the difference. So I think it's on this note, we'd like to say thank you, everyone, and particularly thank you to all our panelists. Thank you, Mrs. Nzeku. Thank you so much for the insights. Thank you, Mr. Ogunyemi. Thank you, Mr. Amala Umeike. Thank you to Mr. Oluwadare. Thank you, Mrs. Joy Abiola Arisin. Mrs. Arisin Abiola, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's conversation. We hope that as the year progresses, we'll have more webinars. And if this is your first time of learning about us, we are Strictly Law Business. We are a training and business consulting company where we do a whole lot of training and business development for law firms, for lawyers. If you'd like to be a part of our community, we have a community of profitable lawyers, thriving lawyers, lawyers who are doing amazingly well in their respective field of practice. And we have all manner of lawyers within our community. If you'd like to join our community, please look at the link and check the link in the chat box now. Daniel, please put the link in the chat box for anyone interested. Please join the Strictly Law Business community. You're going to have a fantastic time being a member of our community. Not only will you learn, but you will also meet and you'll be able to collaborate with lawyers who are doing amazing things. And this webinar today is just one of the aspects where we try to empower our community members. We have knowledge sharing sessions amongst ourselves, opportunities for us to expand and develop our skills, and at the same time build confidence as lawyers. So if you'd like to join our community, the link to the communities in the chat box. We have different flexible plans that will make it easy for you to join the community. So we look forward to seeing you as being member of our community. Thank you so much, everyone. And please, may I know in the chat box if this has been a valuable contribution, a valuable use of your time this evening, and for you to also say thank you to our panelists. Let me know in the chat box if this has been very useful and insightful for you, that you didn't come here to waste your time. Please let me know. Let's know in the chat box, and please say shout out to our community members, to our panelists. So let me know in the chat box if this has been a very insightful conversation for you. If this has made your evening, please let us know. Please don't withhold your accolades. Let us know. The link to the community is in the chat box. You can just click the link and it will take you to the community. Or you can send us an email. You can send an email to strictlylegalbiz@gmail.com. I'll be happy to respond to you. Okay, time well spent. Nice, awesome, and insightful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Impactful session. Okay, thank you for the wealth of ideas shared. Thank you. Yes, very timely. Fantastic. Thank you. Please keep the comment coming, because these are the things that will make us to do more. Really impactful session. Yes, thank you. Thank you. And please appreciate our panelists also. I appreciate our panelists because they've done fantastic work for us this evening. This got me thinking. Thank you to the panelists. Yes, thank you. Yes, and we should start thinking. We should start thinking, what can you do better? How can you position yourself better? Whether you work in a law firm or you run your own practice, what can you do and how can you be better? Thank you to the panelists. Yes, nice session. Thank you. This has been very insightful session. Thanks to all the panelists and of course the moderator. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So okay, thank you everyone. Thank you everyone. If you would like to just be part of our community, like I said earlier, you can send us an email. Also, I've dropped the link to the community there. You can join us and you'll have more of these beautiful sessions within the community. Thank you everyone. Until we come your way next time, have a pleasant evening. Bye.
Thank you, Busola. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Take care, dear. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Busola, and your team. Excellent work.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.